Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live recording of the PUI Playbook series. This is hosted by ASPB PUI section. And today's topic is publishing with undergraduates, challenges and success. And our speaker is Dr. Shangila Barha. She's a full professor from Missouri Western State University. Her lab investigate the effect of climate change on photosynthesis and the emission of volatile compound. So before turning the stage over to her, I would like to go quickly over who we are. So the POI section is open first to anyone interested in improving undergraduate education and research. We generate lots of resources. If you would like to get notified when we release new content or hold new events, please follow us on ASPBPOI on this social media outlets. So without further ado, I would like to turn the stage over to Dr. Barha.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am very excited to be here. I'm Csenga Leborta. I'm a professor of plant sciences at Missouri Western State University. Very proud PUI institution. And today's topic for our discussion is going to be publishing with undergraduates, models, challenges, successes. I have been teaching at Missouri Western since the past 13 years, and I have had lots of experiences that led me to try to publish and publish with students. So I'm going to try to address some of those things that I have encountered throughout my career, bring up some points to think about, give a couple of tips. And then we will open this up for a larger discussion. I know that the audience is very experienced and has a good record of publishing with undergraduates. So I hope that some of the things that we will talk about today is going to help us, all of us, form and gain some ideas about how to publish and how to succeed in publishing with undergraduate students. Now, when we think about publishing with undergraduate students, it comes with lots of benefits. It's not just something that we typically do at a PUI institution because we are required to publish with our students in order to enrich our portfolios. But publishing and involving students, involving undergraduates into the publishing process is extremely beneficial for those students because it gives them ownerships and it transforms them into scientists, give them ownership of their work. And it's amazing to actually see students' name in the print as well. One of the things that I noticed throughout my career that the students who published with me, with whom we have had lots of presentations, and here are two examples of a couple of papers that we published in the past couple of years, is that they gained a lot of confidence. It prepared them for their futures. Many of these students used this experience as they progressed towards graduate careers. Overall, prepared them better for the workforce as well as for a later postgraduate experience. So it boosts their career, which is a really, really major plus when we are thinking about some of the benefits of publishing with undergraduate students. Of course, this contributes to our scholarship as well and enriches our portfolio and helps us progress towards tenure and promotion, which is very important, especially for those who are at the early stages of their careers, or they are preparing for a PUI faculty position down the road. Now, there are a variety of different mentoring models that are widely discussed in the literature as well, that can be followed in involving students into research and research that eventually leads to publishing data. And sometimes these models can even overlap with each other or lead can lead to through its progression to the other one. But I kind of try to break this apart into the three major models that I experienced and I have participated in. One of the models is to conduct the research in a way that's embedded into your class. And of course, you all are aware of cures and that doing cures in your courses. This is a course-based undergraduate research experience that, at least on my end, it allowed me very frequently to collect pilot data. And a second model would be a spin-off out of these research experiences from the classroom, which very often led me to, for example, invite students who were very successful and interested in the research that we have performed during the classroom labs and classroom experiences to actually participate and continue with their research, which led to smaller spin-off projects from these cures, and eventually could continue towards summer research experiences, in some cases towards thesis research experiences, and they ended up with a publication to which the given students were co-authors to. And the third model is your typical apprenticeship research model that is an outside of classroom type of research experience in which the faculty member is working on a particular project with a student, which eventually can also lead to both summer research experiences or senior thesis or both, and can yield papers and publishable results that eventually the student and the faculty member will publish. And one of the things that I have found is that it's really important that you scaffold in the writing experience already very early during the experience itself, meaning that as you are working with the student, then start by preparing figures, start by preparing figure legends, titles, and then continue on with perhaps putting together and formulating methods, small introduction pieces that later on can assemble and can actually be incorporated into the paper. So starting early is definitely one of those things that it's beneficial. It puts the student into the position when it starts thinking about how to present those results and how to progress towards publishing those results. Now, obviously, when you think about publishing your research conducted at an undergraduate an undergraduate institution with undergraduate students, you always have to think carefully about where do you want to publish and how to choose that particular journal, the most appropriate journal where you would publish your research results. And the journal choice has to align very much with the scope of your data and the kind of data that you have, and that you plan to publish. And there are several different opportunities. You can, for example, consider student-friendly journals or pedagogy-focused journals that, for example, could be the Tri-Beta Biological Society's journal, the BIOS, or the American Journal of Undergraduate Research, International Journal of Undergraduate Research and Creative Activities, or some of the CUR publications, some of the CUR journals, which would be appropriate for an undergraduate student to publish its somewhat smaller project and outcomes of their undergraduate research experience. In other cases, you want to consider disciplinary journals, and since we're in plant biology, obviously, plant physiology would be one of the first ones that I would think of, but there are lots of discipline-specific journals, and we had some of us are molecular biologist, you would choose a molecular biology journal, and so on and so on. Now, depending on the type of data and the quantity of the data that you have, you might also want to consider, for example, short communications, data notes, field reports, to publish. And one of the types of publications that came my way along the past couple of years were, for example, the micropublications. And these micropublications are perfect, for example, for a limited scope, smaller publication. That would be a great experience for an undergraduate student to have and be involved into to the writing process and the publishing process itself throughout their academic careers at the PUI. Now, another area that I would like to bring up to discussion later on is, how do you decide, for example, what are your criteria? When does a student qualify as a co-author? And these decisions are often very hard to make, and you have to very clearly in the very beginning clarify some of the criteria that you use to determine what qualifies actually for authorship. I frequently, for example, with my students, I sign a short authorship agreement or have at least a conversation in the beginning of our work about what are the criteria to be included as a co-author versus just receiving acknowledgement. For example, if the contributions of students are uneven, then how do we determine the order of the authors? One very big challenge that I personally always run into is that I tend to work with students at their junior or senior levels, and very frequently those students graduate before we actually have the opportunity to submit the results or write up and submit the results of our work. And therefore, it's very important to take steps in order to, for example, keep in touch with those students and keep them actively engaged even after they have graduated. One of the big rules that I always have is that, and that I clarify with the students is that, if you have a substantial intellectual or writing contribution, that qualifies as a co-author in a science paper. If the contribution is purely technical help, that is more acknowledgement worthy than co-authorship. So these expectations, if they are made clear in the beginning, then typically save a lot of headaches down the road. Now, obviously, the publication timelines can stretch very far at PUI institution, and that means that it takes perhaps a longer time. It's more challenging to get from the point of a start of a project to the publication timeline, and it stretches often beyond the time that a student will spend in your lab or will spend at the institution itself. Therefore, how do you keep momentum? How do you keep the motivation? And some of the things that I found extremely helpful was, for example, to build in writing the writing checkpoints into the research experience itself. As we go on, as we continue, we do fulfill those we check in, we look at where we are, we summarize, we prepare figures, we try to think about how this would fit, how this figure, for example, would fit in the publication. Obviously, we have to be very careful. Sometimes it's really, really easy to lose track of time. And I found that if I set deadlines very rigorously for myself and for my students, those deadlines before graduation help a lot in accomplishing, carrying that project from the work itself to the publication stage, and ultimately keeping in touch, being connected, sharing documents that are editable, and check in regularly is key if the student graduates before the publication is submitted. So these postgraduate roles are always clear, and if those are clear, then the students stay engaged, stay motivated, and they will continue their contributions to publication. Now, um, some of the things that can hamper our work and can be an obstacle at a PUI institution that I have been considering and thinking about as I was progressing with my career was that, of course, one of the biggest challenges is the time that we can dedicate to research, as well as time that we can dedicate to the writing process itself, because we all have relatively heavy teaching loads. But embedding the research into the classes and into summer sessions, together with some of the portions of the writing experience, can be extremely helpful. Then some of the other challenges are obviously the limited resources, and one of the best ways that I found to overarch those limited resources was through collaborations, sharing facilities even within our department, but as well with neighboring institutions. We frequently use open source resources, open source data sets as well, and some of that can overarch the resource limitations. Um, Depending on the type of and the nature of the work, sometimes, especially when you're thinking about publishing publishing data that requires some sort of an approval, such as the IRB approvals. It's extremely challenging, at least at my institution, to actually secure those approvals. So that's something that you want to plan ahead for. Start really early planning and applying for those approvals. And as you're doing your research, secure those approvals, pilot the work first, and then progress to a full-blown project. Um, Also, quality, of course, quality checks are extremely important, and maintaining the quality of the work done. And given our limited time, often um, it's becoming challenging to supervise or spend all the necessary time in the lab with the students. I find it extremely helpful if I try to recruit students that are at different stages of their careers, and recruit them to stay in my lab for longer times, which helps that in the way that the senior students can oversee the work of the more junior students, and they can involve themselves into the process of writing, of putting together parts, for example, of a manuscript as they are working along, and receiving the results and discussing the results of the work. So planning these multi-semester scaffolds has been extremely helpful in reaching that stage, from planning the research, doing the research, as well as involving the students into the publication process. And some timeline breakdown to this could that worked for me was to, for example, pilot something during the fall semester, then refine, repeat during the spring, and within the summer, try to put together at least the first draft of a manuscript, which is a timeline that is not too long for a student for a student's academic period that's available to work with the student at a PUI institution. Now, if I was correct about the list of people who logged in into this discussion today, there might be some aspiring future PUI faculty as well in between them. So some of the advice that I would recommend based on some of the things I experienced when thinking about how to carry your research to a potential publication and strengthen even your portfolio for your tenure and promotion process. One of the things is you want to start small. Try to publish data notes, case studies first, something that's easily achievable within that timeline period that gets you to that big milestone, which could be the tenure and the promotion, the first stage of the promotion, or even the second stage of the promotion of your career. Try to build a research pipeline that fits with your teaching load, and again, scaffolding your lab in a way that it mixes students at different stages of their experience in your laboratory, enhances efficiency extremely in some of these steps of reaching a publication based on your work. Very important, network with the ASPB's PUI section. And because mentorship and collaboration is very, very important and makes a big difference. I am part of the section because the section has provided me a lot of support. So I would like to give back as much as possible as part of this section to those who are just starting or aiming to start their careers at this point right now. Another thing, funding. Of course, getting large federal funding takes a lot of time. It takes a long time to put together proposals, but there are other funding opportunities too. Seek out the smaller grants, smaller external or internal grants to fund your student work. And one of the great grant opportunities are right here within ASPB through the SURF grant. I have been actually fortunate to have students who secured the SURF grant 3 different times throughout my career, and each one of them has done tremendous, exceptional work. This funding allowed us to actually publish. One of those students you see right here, Alika Zend, and she's the co-author of one of those papers that I displayed at the very beginning. So please consider ASPB SURF opportunities. Students gain a lot of benefit from this type of funding. And I think I'm running really close to or already exceeded my time, so I will stop here. These were just a couple of ideas. Of course, we could talk for hours and hours about this topic, but I put here my contact information if anyone is interested in talking more beyond the scope of this discussion and this networking series. Please contact me. But before I close, I want to put a shameless plug in to another session to those of you who are preparing for a PUI career. The ASPB PUI section is organizing a workshop slash panel presentation and discussion that's geared towards your next chapter, Guide to Becoming a PUI Professor. And it's going to happen Friday, October 3rd at there are the different Pacific time, 9 a.m. And Beijing time, 12 a.m. Please, 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 if anyone is interested, please tune in to this workshop.
Okay, thank you so much, Shankar, for that wonderful presentation. So if you like our content, please like this video on Plantain YouTube channel below. And please also follow us on ASPB PUI on the various social media outlets. And if you want to be a part of this community, please go to PUIASPB.org, and it's only $5 per year to become a PUI section member. Thank you so much for your attention, and we hope to see you during our next live events.